Well, I mean, let's face it. How many law enforcement agencies out there, do give reports when you think about it about, strange things, Bigfoot or other things, right? And they don't want to be involved in it because they don't want to spend their budget on it. Because, I mean, a lot of small sheriff's departments or police departments don't have a huge budget. They have, so they, and the other hand is they just don't want to be involved in it. So they kind of like brush it under the table and hope it goes away.
Probably a lot more than what we know about. In some cases, I'm sure, if there's been a report of damage or something like that, they'll go look. And I know a lot of departments will go look and say, yeah, there's definitely handprints, footprints, something here, but we have no idea. They do the basics because that's what most departments can do when they're small is take fingerprints, and if they match someone, great. If they don't, then, it gets filed, and that's it.
Well, I mean, like footprints, like size 30 is kind of like strange, So, I mean,
Exactly.
Now, I got a guess is coming up at the end of July that actually is working for a sheriff department in this country, and said that he actually ran across a Bigfoot, and he was actually told if he comes on my show that he will not have a job anymore.
That does not surprise me.
Well, I guess, let's face it. I mean, the paranormal is open. People talk about it, way more than they ever did. I mean, you go on to all the cable channels, you're seeing sci-fi movies, you're seeing aliens, you're seeing Bigfoot, you're seeing, everything, leprechauns, you name it. And, people are accepting it more and more. But then again, depending on what type of job you hold, your credibility is at stake. If you go around and you say, hey, I saw this. Not just so much maybe with the department or your job you hold. I mean, it's just people still kind of label you, if you know what I mean. They kind of label you as out there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. They do.
So, Liz, what made you write this book? I mean, what all of a sudden came into your thoughts and said, hey, I want to write this book and write it? It definitely is like a 3-day read, if I'm not wrong.
2 or 3 days. Yeah. It's not a super long book. It's, I think 237 pages or something like that.
That's about a 3-day read.
I wrote it. Yeah. I wrote it a little bit differently. I wrote it designed for adults, but it's safe to hand it to your teenager and say, hey, I think you're going to like this. I tried to keep it like PG-13 rating in there somewhere, kind of, which a lot of books, they're great books, but if they're written for adults, that's the group that it's targeted for, and you can't really hand it to your child and say, hey, you're going to like this too.
Oh, wow. So where is your book available at? I mean, if somebody wanted to buy your book right now, where would they find it?
They can get it in print through my publisher, through Amazon and Barnes & Noble online, also through my website. And for ebook, they can get it through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BookBub, Kobo, Google, iTunes, and really anywhere where you normally download your ebooks.
Okay, so I take it this story goes around about a military base, right? And some strange creatures that are lurking by the military base. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying to pump information out without you, destroying your, your book. Is it any chance? Is it something like some of the experiments, maybe from the military bases? Maybe it's causing these creatures to be around that area?
What it is basically it's an alternate version of Area 51. Instead of it being aliens and UFOs, it is a containment and research facility for other things, for cryptids, for things that cause paranormal activity, for experiments that have been done but have gone wrong. All of that is housed, and in an incident, all the containments went down. There was damage to the facility, and basically they all escaped.
So in the book, you got all these like Bigfoot and all these other creatures that are not too friendly towards other creatures or mankind running around. And I got a funny feeling they're trying to get them back or whatever. I mean, that'd be a good read. Actually, I would probably, I hate to say it. If anybody, I do have a producer who actually makes movies, horror movies, is a fan of my show. And hopefully he's listening. I know he'll listen, at a later date because he listens to all my shows. So if he can't hear it now, he's going to hear a replay. And he's really into making horror movies. And he's just got done. I was talking to him about a month ago on the phone that he just got done making a major horror movie. It's going to come out next year. So, I mean, hey, opposite of, Area 51 where they're trying to, engineer UFOs and aliens and stuff like this. What you're saying your book is about where they have these different monster creatures. I don't know if they were experimenting with them and creating them or whatever. So they're out running around the neighborhood of the military base and out in the woods and in the streets and all that stuff. Does it get really, really scary?
There are some scenes in each book that get really intense, that could be very scary. But I make sure that in there is humor along with it. Throughout the series, there is one deputy who he's great at his job. He has amazing training, but when it comes to these things, he just does not have common sense. And one of the situations that he gets into is, first, some of these creatures are basically harmless. They're more of a nuisance, so we're removed from wherever they were. And one of those that was a nuisance was basically a giant slug, which he comes across in the middle of the road while he's out patrolling. And this deputy thinks, hey, I'm just going to poke it with a stick. Let's see what happens.
Ooh.
And it just does not go well. Exactly. It just does not go well for him with that. He is basically covered with slime, mucus, whatever, falls down, gets back up, falls down again. All of this is caught on the dash camera. By the end of the 5th book series, he just doesn't even bother with reports. He just basically tapes the memory card for the dash camera into the file folder and writes down a time, date, and just what it was, and just says, watch it here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he is lucky, though. You know what I was expecting you to say when he poked the slug, and he got covered all this stuff, that he all of a sudden, turned into a skeleton, after it dissolved him,
No, he wound up being one of my favorite characters because he was just so much fun to write and think of, okay, what is he going to get into next? You know, because he's one who has been friends with the sheriff for many, many years. And they used to work at different departments and things. So when she took over, he was really happy about it. So really can't let anything seriously bad happen to him, but funny bad can happen all day.
Well, I mean, getting covered, I guess, with with a slug slime is bad enough. I mean, how do you go home and tell your wife, "Hey, my uniform is like toasted here"?
Yeah,
or
is
he a single
it was the actual
cop?
getting in the car. He is single. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I sure hate to sit in that car afterwards.
Do well with dating. It was his car. It was assigned to him, and he got to drive home and clean it out.
Well, you know what's really bad is when you're a police officer, right? And you pick up a person off the street. I'm not going to use the word bum because that's not nice. But you pick up a street person, right, that is totally drunk, hasn't changed their clothes in probably a month, right? And they're walking barefooted, and they actually had 2 days worth of accents in the back of their pants. And you're being told by a Starbucks manager, I want you to take him in. And you look at the guy, and you're holding your nose, and you're going, I'm not going to take that guy in and put him in the back of my car. I'm not going to arrest him. Hey, you know what? There's an answer to that. You call the EMTs.
And they love you for it. I've been on
that's
both
that's when you
those calls.
that's when you decide you're going to change professions.
And the crazy one was I did change. I went from EMT to police, and that was one of those. What was I thinking? No, the real answer for the car in that situation is you go through the car wash, you open both back doors, and you power wash it.
Yeah, well, if you don't do that and you bring the car back in, then it's going to go get filled up and go back out on their ship. No, that doesn't work. But anyway, I don't want to get into my experiences when I was in my early 20s. That's long gone history, but I learned my lesson really fast. But wow, what made you decide to write these series of books? I mean, here you're at your age and some of the things you told me, you should have been writing romance books. But what made you go into the paranormal?
Yeah, I've never been big on romance. I have never watched many of the romantic comedies out there that people say, oh, this is such a great movie. And I just look at them like, no, I just can't. I have just always loved the paranormal. I've loved action movies and sci-fi and grew up watching it. And that just seemed to be where things went.
Well, didn't you tell me on one of the shows you were on that you saw a young kid walking with a hoodie and all that stuff and all of a sudden disappear? Or is that maybe I'm at the age where I'm mixing people up. Coming on your property?
No, that was me. I was here on my property, and I was feeding my horses. And as I was feeding them, I saw what gave the appearance of someone maybe early teens wearing like a black hoodie, black cargo pants. It was kind of loose-fitting, baggy clothing. And the space where I saw him, it would have been it was just as he was walking in this open space between where my house and my well house sit. Uh-huh. So there were a few steps that were taken. And I kept watch in that space because that was the only space where he could have walked back out. and never saw him leave. So I finished feeding the horses and walked over to where he should have been, and there was no one there.